And good evening. My name is Eric Buer, and I'm the Council Program Director. And here to present to us tonight is our Council C.O.P.E Climbing Chair, Mr. Riley Suffridge.
All right, thanks y'all for joining. I'm gonna talk for some slides, so I'm gonna bring those up. If you're on a phone and can't see it, then I will try to explain it. All right, so can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Everybody good? All right. So I think C.O.P.E climbing is kind of, I wanted to try to explain what it can do for packs and troops. We kind of cover all the age groups. So I will start. So first off is climbing. We have at the Mount Baker Council at Fire Mountain, we have a climbing tower, and around the outside of the climbing tower, we have a bouldering wall. So, you know, why should your unit climb? Well, first off, it's fun. All the kids enjoy it. Some adults enjoy it. And it is a lot of fun. And the participants, they can gain confidence in themselves through physical, mental, and emotional challenges. The bouldering wall, as per this is per BSA Guide to Safe Scouting. The bouldering wall and climbing tower are suitable for all ages. So that's Cub Scouts, Webelos, Boy Scouts, venturing anything. From our climbing wall, we can also rappel, and rappelling is for Webelos and Boy Scouts and venturing.
You're saying Scouts BSA there, shouldn't we?
Yes, excuse me. We should say Scouts BSA. That's what you get for cutting and pasting stuff you find on the internet.
No worries. I always have to remind myself, so I figured it helps to remind others.
I'll change that before I send it to you. So Scouts BSA can earn the climbing merit badge, and that's something we offer at summer camp, and we've been talking about offering during the off season as well. The climbing merit badge and the skills that the Scouts learn on the climbing merit badge are a good foundation for more adventurous activities like climbing on natural rock, canyoneering, mountaineering, or ice climbing. All this is for Scouts BSA 13 and older. So all these things are covered in the Guide to Safe Scouting, but 13 and older can do natural rock, canyoneering, mountaineering, and ice climbing. So if you got Scouts that are interested in the climbing merit badge, then it's a great foundation for those skills. All right, C.O.P.E. C.O.P.E is also fun. Someone could say it's more fun than climbing. C.O.P.E stands for Challenging Outdoor Personal Experience. I believe this is more of a Scouts BSA nomenclature. It's not really recognized outside it's not an industry designation. In the industry, our high C.O.P.E would be equivalent to a high ropes course or a challenge course. So for C.O.P.E, there are age appropriate initiative games for all ages. So there are some beginning initiative games that Cub Scouts can do. And then there's some that are a little bit more involved that you would want Webelos or Boy Scouts to do. There's somebody that wants in.
Yep.
All right, low C.O.P.E is for Scouts BSA. And these activities are group activities, and they're really focused on all the aspects of team building. So I'll go into that a little bit more in other slide, the next slide. But low COPE is basically on the ground. There's a bunch of different elements, we call them, and there's challenges for a group of scouts to accomplish. High COPE is for Scouts BSA 13 and older, and it is focused more on individual initiative. There is a bit of teamwork because the way we run our course, we rely on scouts to sometimes belay each other with under qualified supervision and check to make sure that their buddy up on the course is, doing what they're supposed to. But generally, high COPE is an individual initiative.
Riley, as we're talking about COPE here, for someone who's not intimately familiar with the program, I know it seems like these levels have some pretty crazy distinctions, going from ground-based kind of initiative field games to something where you're, strapped in 35 feet in the air and jumping for a trapeze or stepping from dangling, block to dangling block or what have you on a high COPE course. Is there kind of a common philosophy that goes through all of those that really means that even that Cub Scout level of program is still tied into that broader purpose?
Yeah, I mean, you can still, some of the easier, if you will, initiative games for Cub Scouts are still trying to teach them the same team building skills that the low COPE would do. The initiative games aren't as focused toward the individual aspect that high COPE has. High COPE is kind of there to challenge each individual to go to whatever level they're comfortable with, as far as, how high up on something they want to go, how far they want to jump. It's kind of based on their comfort level with heights and that sort of thing. But the team building aspect really covers all age groups when you talk about the initiative games and low COPE. You just need to have their, age appropriate initiative games and look at attention spans and that sort of thing with the Cub Scouts.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. So here, when I'm talking about when we're talking about COPE here, what we're really talking about is low COPE. And low COPE is really, like I said, it's geared toward team building. So it's a great resource to teach patrols and troops or units communication, planning, teamwork, trust, leadership, problem solving, and self-esteem. So what you'll have is, you'll have a group of usually 5 or 6 is kind of a minimum, and you could probably go up to maybe 10 or so. On some of the elements, 10 would be too many. On some it works, but there's different elements, and the scouts have there's an objective there to accomplish some task. Like for everyone to go through a tire that's 6 feet off the ground, or swing on a rope from one platform to another, or walk along a cable. There's a bunch of different elements. So when these groups are working together, then they have to communicate and plan, and they have to do all these things to accomplish that task. And the way the program is structured, it really does a good job of teaching the kids how to do these things and how to problem solve. If your troop is working on the introduction to leadership for troops, then low COPE is a great tool for that. It can really be integrated into it a lot nicely, so that the scouts can learn leadership. So like I said, all this is kind of geared around team building. So, we when it's offered during the summer, what you'll do is you'll get scouts in there for the most part that don't know each other because they're all from different troops. So that dynamic sometimes is a bit different than if you get a patrol in there that knows each other, but the scouts still all learn the same skills. And it's pretty amazing what they can do if they apply what they've learned, if they communicate and plan and trust each other and have a good leader and follow the leader, then they can really accomplish a lot. So in general, C.O.P.E is, it doesn't, it's not necessarily geared toward, it's non-competitive. I mean, they're, one of the tenets is, if you can't say something nice, then don't say anything. It's all about being, there is criticism, but it has to be positive. So we really encourage a non-competitive atmosphere. The objective is to work together and accomplish a task, and not see who can do it the fastest or whatnot. It's supposed to be non-competitive. You don't have to be the best athlete in the troop. You don't have to be a great climber. You don't have to be a fast runner or anything. I mean, anybody can do C.O.P.E, and that's part of the teamwork is developing plans and whatnot so that the team can accomplish a task. Even if you have someone that's, on some of the elements, if you're really tall, it's an advantage, or if you have long arms or good balance. There's a bunch of different elements. So depending on the element, some people may have an advantage over the other, but the program really encourages people to work together, and you don't have to be a great athlete to accomplish any of this. If you have poor coordination or not very strong or things like that, there's still ways to get around it and accomplish the task.
Riley, one of my favorite experiences on a C.O.P.E course was doing the wall.
Yeah.
When I was, I was probably 16, and I'm a big guy, and here I am standing at the bottom of a 9-foot tall wall with a group of other 16-year-olds looking up this, and the challenge is for the whole patrol to get over the wall. There's no handholds, there's no ropes. It's just a wooden wall that we have to get up and over. And the thought of me like getting lifted up by this group was just like, there was no way it was going to happen. And the whole patrol came together and said, no, we're getting over here and you're going first. And I was like, what do you mean I'm going first? But got me up on top, and another big guy. And then between the two of us, we could be up there at top and start reaching down and just grabbing people up. And the whole, teamwork that evolved to get everyone's confidence to get up and over this wall was incredible. And it's still one of the best, certainly the best team building exercises I've ever been through, and really was personally empowering as well to be a part of that.
Yeah. C.O.P.E encourages risk taking in a safe and controlled environment, but say, for example, especially you especially see this on the high course with some of the different elements. The participants will have to jump off of the top of a pole and grab a trapeze, or step across a large gap, things like that they might normally do. So it allows them to take a risk under a controlled environment. They think it's a high risk, but it's not. With the safety precautions that are in place, it's a very low, there's no risk, but it's not perceived that way when you're 40 feet off the ground and someone wants you to walk across a 4-foot gap, and you're 5 foot tall. It's so it's performance versus process. It's more about the process than the outcome. You know, anytime a group finishes on an element, there's always a debrief, you know, to talk about the process and decision making and what could have gone, you know, what went good, what went bad, what could you do to improve. Uh, it's adventurous and exciting. I mean, it's really fun to watch the kids, especially on some of the high elements. You know, they get really excited, cheering each other on and helping each other out. There's one element we have called the vertical playground, and usually there's two scouts on it at once, and it's if the two scouts work together, it's quite a bit easier. So you'll hear them yelling at each other, you know, do this, do that, they have a lot of fun with it. Acceptance of responsibility and challenge by choice. So everything we do in COPE and climbing as well, it's all challenge by choice. So no one's ever coerced to do something that they don't want to. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges as staff, is to prevent that from happening. And that usually happens from parents. Usually parents are the worst about trying to get their kid to do something that they don't want to and they're not comfortable with. And you really see that a lot on the zip line and sometimes on the climbing tower and on high cope. Anything that involves heights or things like that, then there's always somebody that doesn't want to do it, and that's fine. But that's probably the biggest challenge as an instructor, is shutting all that down. It's adaptable, especially the low cope. I mean, there's things that we can do to vary the goal or adjust it, you know, for limitations that may exist with a scout. And we also do it with climbing. You know, if someone isn't comfortable or they're starting to get scared, it's like, hey, can you go, you know, set your goal to make it to the halfway up the wall or a fourth way up the wall, things like that. And there's always positive reinforcement. There, there's, and that's hard sometimes with the kids. I think most of the time, you know, it's not their intent to insult each other, but a lot of times the way they make suggestions or discuss, especially in that after the event, when they talk about things, it doesn't always come across as nice. So that's one thing we try to do, is encourage. It's okay to have criticism, but it needs to be positive. So our training, the way the BSA is structured, the COPE training, so to be level 1 trained, you have to be 18 years or older. And to be level 2, you need to be 21 or over.
Riley, can I jump in just to say that while we've got these great facilities, we've historically, or at least for the last few years, had a hard time offering them outside of summer camp or a couple of, you know, specialized events. And one of our big goals would be to see more and more units accessing them. And to do that, we need more trained facilitators, especially at the unit level. I know one of the members of our COPE committee is a Scoutmaster. He's really excited about the fact that since he got his level 2 training, he can take his troop up and run them through these events all within his own troop. He doesn't need to rely on a weekend where our instructors might be available or pay an extra fee to get people up there. And he's also then a resource for other units when he's available to do that as well. And so one of the things that we're hoping to do here is invite and encourage some of you listening who have an interest to join us for this training and be a part of this program throughout the council and for your own unit.
So the basic training we offer gets people to level 1. And if you're a level 1, then you could go up with your unit, talk to us, get a level, you know, talk to the Mount Baker Council and get a level 2. And with the level 2 and and one person from the unit that's a level 1, then we could handle up to 12 scouts. The ratio for COPE and climbing is 6-to-1. So there always has to be two instructors, and then any scouts above, any numbers above 12, then you need another at least level 1. So level 2, if you get your level 2 certification, then like Eric said, you can facilitate your own events, assuming you have at least one other instructor in your unit, or in another unit. So our training requirements to be level 1, you have to complete the 2 weekends of training and then do 10 hours of group facilitation. So that can be, generally it's on the, it can be on the low course or the high course or a mixture. And a lot of times people will come up in the past, if they took the training and their unit's going to summer camp here, then the week of summer camp, their unit's at summer camp, then they'll go help out with COPE and climbing and facilitate and finish up their certification. For level 2, you need to finish your level 1 training and then be observed by a level 2 for an event. So that would be, we have, it could be a scouting event or some outside group that comes in. The climbing tower and zip line fall under the high course. So if you want to be a level 2 for climbing, or some people are, like when we run the zip line at summer camp, they also have to be level 2. When we do our training session, I'll move up to so we've got training planned in about a month. And on these two weekends, we will cover all the hands-on and classroom stuff for level 1 and level 2. That's just the way we've set ours up. It seems to work better that way. You don't have to break up. That way, if someone goes through both weekends, then they can do their facilitation and be level 1, and then work a little bit longer and with a level 2 and get their level 2 certification. So that's really all I had on the program itself. If anybody's interested, I have the training outline as well. We can look at that and you kind of get an idea of what's covered.
Todd here asked where level 2 certification can be done. Todd, did that question get answered for you well enough, or should we talk about that?
Yes, that I think he answered that. I didn't quite understand from what was said there. It sounded like you couldn't do the level 2, but I think that was answered. You can do the level 2. It's part of the same training. There's just more of it.
Yeah, well, it's part of the same training. There's just more to do after the training, as far as your, doing your 10 hours of facilitation and then running an event. The other thing I will say about COPE and climbing training, it's specific to a council and maybe even to a camp. So the training that you take here is good for Mount Baker Council and the Fire Mountain course. If you went someplace else, they would at least make you take a refresher on their course. So for example, if I went down to Camp Pickett, I'd need to take a refresher before I could run an event on their course, because every course is a little bit different as far as the elements they run, how you set them up, things like that. Climbing tower is pretty much universal, but the high COPE and zip line are more specialized. Let me see here. I'll just, I'm gonna look at this syllabus right quick. I won't. The way we've set it up, we come in on a Friday evening and have class from like 6 to 9 and then just spend the night at the camp. We've got some of the new staff cabins are nice, so people stay out there usually. And then on Saturday, we'll run for 8 hours. So in the evening sessions are always kind of classroom. We'll go over anything, you know, the stuff it's kind of usually it's an introduction to what we're going to cover the next day. So on the day 2 is pretty much all outdoors. So we'll start off talking about C.O.P.E, and that's just some of the stuff we've talked about tonight. And then we'll go out on the course and look at the course and talk about it. And then that's usually in the morning. Then in the afternoon, we'll look at the high course and how you set it up and how you take it down, and the different belay systems and kind of how you run the high course. And then on the next session, we'll be a little bit more about the kind of geared toward the climbing tower and zip line, talking about how we do our safety checks and things like that. And then that section will be geared around the climbing tower on how we set up to climb and rappel, and then how we set up the zip line. And usually everybody gets to ride the zip line. So
Riley, Jason is wondering if someone has outside training, say AMGA, do they need to go through this training in order to help at the climbing wall when their kids at camp?
So I would say if somebody shows up with their AMGA card, then any of our guys are going to let them belay for sure, and go up in the tower, and they could help belay up there, like for kids rappelling, things like that. Because that's one of the things we talk about. If you go look at the Climb On Safely, AMGA is one of the certifying authorities, if you will, that's recognized by Boy Scouts. So, if you wanted to take your troop to an outside group to go climbing or something, if you've got an AMGA guide, then that's good.
Riley, am I right to think that person with the AMGA card would not count in terms of a ratio to add additional scouts into the tower, right? Because they need to be our own.
From a Boy Scout perspective, on the climbing tower, I don't think it would count.
If we have, say, 2 instructors in there, that's 12 kids. This AMGA guide is going to be a great help in terms of maybe logistics and helping kids in and out, doing belays and that sort of thing. But they wouldn't enable us to add another 6 kids.
No, probably not.
Another BSA instructor would.
Yeah, and most of the time, the ratio is never an issue in the climbing tower, because
that's true. It's not like we can put 30 kids in there.
We always keep the kids outside anyway. Cool. And then we talk about some more standards. The BSA, as far as our equipment and all that, the BSA follows the ACCT standards. So, Jason, if you're familiar with, the rock climbing gear and stuff like that, ACCT says that everything has to be rated at least 25 kilonewtons. So we've got a bunch of stuff that's big and heavy just because of the rating.
So sure. Yeah. I'm one of the co-owners of the American Alpine Institute, and I'm a certified rock and alpine guide, and co-authored the single pitch instructor textbook for the AMGA. And so like, I'm not, I can't do 2 weekends, of training, but when my kid's at camp, I'd be happy to help out at the tower, but I can't afford the training prior, if that makes sense, the time.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're someone we ought to try and recruit onto our Copeland Climbing Committee and have some input into what we're doing with our program year round.
Sure, with climbing, I'm not a ropes person, but and I'm a climbing merit badge counselor, and I've facilitated Boy Scout climbing programs both as a parent and, well, also as a guide.
Right. One of the things we're looking to do actually this spring is right now our program is certified by National just for the artificial climbing tower, and we'd like to expand that authorization to do natural rock with the scouts through camp, and having some expertise to help with that planning would be great.
Happy to help. Absolutely. Yeah, just let me know. I mean,
Yeah, we've got some stuff out at camp. I think if we clean it off, we can certainly rappel on it. We may be able to climb on it.
Mhm.
They're just
Well,
Go
it's
and
not
end the
that-
recording now that I remembered about it.